The night was silent over Earth's greatest cities. Streetlights cast long shadows and most of the world was asleep, unaware that their lives were about to be shattered. Then, without warning, the skies tore open. Thousands of sleek, black vessels, far, too large and swift to be natural, appeared over the planet's major population centers. They descended like a silent storm, blotting out the stars. Earth's satellites flickered and died as the ships unleashed a strange pulse of energy, scrambling all communication and defense systems. People woke to a nightmare. Children vanished in an instant. One moment they were laughing on playgrounds, chasing each other in backyards or huddled under blankets, and the next gone. Not a trace remained except for strange scorch marks on the ground and a lingering hum that no one could explain. In New York, a mother screamed into the darkness, where her 6-year-old son had been minutes before. In Tokyo, classrooms emptied like ghosts fleeing a fire. In Rio de Janeiro, parents clutched empty hands and whispered desperate prayers. World governments scrambled. Early warnings were ignored or dismissed, until the news was undeniable. Thousands of human children, spread across continents, had been taken. And the world had no idea who had done it, or why. The United Nations Security Council convened an emergency session in Geneva. The atmosphere was thick with tension and disbelief. Military leaders paced the room, diplomats whispered frantic negotiations, and news feeds flashed images of grieving families. At the center of it all stood the Secretary General, a woman named Elena Rivas. Calm, measured, but with steel beneath her gaze. "We are facing an unprecedented assault on humanity," she said, voice steady despite the chaos. "Our children have been kidnapped, stolen from their homes by forces unknown. Make no mistake, this is an act of war." Her words reverberated through the chamber. "How do we respond?" an ambassador asked, desperation threading his voice. "We must unite," Elena said. "For too long, Earth has been divided by petty disputes and old grudges. That ends now. We will protect our own." Behind closed doors, military chiefs and intelligence agencies raced to uncover the identity of the kidnappers. The trail led beyond the solar system, to a place no Earth sensor had ever reached, the Galactic Empire. The Galactic Empire was a shadowy colossus sprawling across thousands of star systems. Cold, calculating, and ruthlessly efficient, it treated lesser species as tools, resources to be harvested or obstacles to be crushed. Humans had long been dismissed as a primitive world, barely worth noticing. Until now. The Empire's motives were unclear. The children were taken not as hostages but as prizes. Genetic analyses indicated the kids possessed traits the Empire considered valuable: resilience, adaptability, and an unyielding spirit. Traits the Empire wanted to weaponize. On the other side of the galaxy, Emperor Varek's cold eyes studied the reports from his war council. "Human children," he said, voice like ice, "are raw potential. They will become the Empire's greatest asset." But beneath his calm exterior, a flicker of doubt stirred. Humans were unlike any other species the Empire had encountered. Emotional, defiant, dangerous. Back on Earth, time was running out. Military installations prepared for retaliation, but with limited spacefaring capability and fractured alliances. Earth's response was slow and uncertain. In a hidden bunker beneath Geneva, General Naomi Voss stared at the holographic display of the alien fleet. She clenched her fists, jaw tight. "They took our children," she said quietly. "And now we fight. Not just for them, but for every human who dares to call this planet home." The world's first unified war council was forming, pulling resources from every nation. Scientists raced to reverse engineer fragments of alien tech recovered from crashed ships. Engineers worked around the clock on weapons and defenses Earth had never dreamed possible. As dawn broke, the world stood on the edge of a precipice. News feeds showed families holding vigils, streets filling with protests, and governments declaring martial law to maintain order. But beneath the surface, a fierce fire was igniting, a burning determination to fight back against impossible odds. On the steps of the UN headquarters, thousands chanted, "Bring them home. Bring them home. Elena Rivas stepped forward and raised her voice. This is not the end of humanity. It is the beginning of our fight. We will find our children. We will bring them home. And if the Galactic Empire wants war, then war they shall have. The crowd erupted, the chant growing louder, one voice becoming millions. High above the earth, the Empire's ships vanished into the void, but their message lingered like a shadow. They had taken the children, and humanity was about to declare total war. The world was fractured, still reeling from centuries of conflict, distrust, and rivalry. Nations that once bickered over borders and resources now faced a far greater threat, but old wounds ran deep. In the days after the kidnappings, meetings between world leaders were stormy and tense. Some wanted to negotiate. Others demanded immediate retaliation. The United Nations, now a war council, struggled to find consensus. General Naomi Voss sat in the command center beneath Geneva, surrounded by maps, holographic star charts, and piles of intelligence reports. She was no stranger to conflict. Her career was marked by hard-fought victories and bitter losses. But this was different. This isn't just a kidnapping, she said, her voice cold and sharp. It's an invasion of our very future. They took our children because they know humans have something no one else does. Fight. We don't back down. We don't surrender. Around the room, commanders nodded, the weight of their shared resolve settling in. The first steps were chaotic. Earth's space program was fragmented, with separate nations controlling their own satellites and launch systems, none large enough to match the Empire's advanced fleets. But desperation bred innovation. Engineers and scientists worked frantically to combine resources. Old rivalries were set aside as ideas flowed freely. New propulsion systems, quantum encryption, repurposed alien tech scavenged from near-Earth asteroid belts. In a sprawling underground factory beneath the Nevada desert, workers assembled the YO, first prototype of what would become Earth's new hope, a hybrid fighter craft named the Revenant, a sleek, agile ship built for guerrilla warfare, able to hide in asteroid fields and strike fast. It was Earth's answer to the Empire's overwhelming power. Meanwhile, across the globe, a surge of grassroots resistance grew. Civilians took up arms and volunteered for training, not just to defend their homes, but to reclaim what was stolen: their children. In Seoul, a rally filled the streets, chanting fierce slogans of unity and vengeance. In Lagos, communities built makeshift communication networks, sharing intelligence and support. In Berlin, scientists debated late into the night, working on everything from improved medical tech to energy weapons. The world was finally acting as one. Despite the progress, the Empire's shadow loomed large. Intelligence revealed that the Empire had established a relay station in the Kuiper Belt, a forward base for fleet operations and communications. The location was lightly defended, but critical to Empire control in the solar system. "This is our chance," General Voss told the assembled officers. "A strike against the relay will send a message. They think Earth is defenseless. Let's show them how wrong they are." The plan was risky. A small fleet of Revenant fighters, supported by commandeered Earth defense drones, would infiltrate the station and disable it, crippling the Empire's communications. No one expected it to succeed. The night of the assault, Earth held its breath. From the underground command bunker, General Voss watched the live feed as the Revenants disappeared into the blackness beyond Neptune's orbit. The fighters moved like shadows, weaving through asteroid belts and debris fields, avoiding patrols with nerves of steel and flawless coordination. Inside the Empire's relay station, complacency was high. The Empire had never considered Earth a threat worth serious defense. Their guards were distracted, unaware of the approaching storm. Then the attack hit. Explosions rocked the station as Revenant fighters launched missile barrages and electronic warfare strikes. The drones swarmed through corridors, disabling power nodes and sabotaging control systems. Despite heavy resistance, the Earth team prevailed. The station's communications array was destroyed, severing a critical link between the Empire's fleets. Back on Earth, news of the victory ignited something fierce and electric. People cheered in the streets. For the first time, hope wasn't a whispered prayer, it was a roar. But the Empire was watching. Their response came swift and brutal. Within hours, orbital bombardments targeted Earth's fledgling spaceports and colonies. Automated strikes destroyed mining facilities and communication hubs. Cities were blacked out. Infrastructure collapsed. Thousands of lives were lost in a merciless display of power. In the War Council, faces were grim. The message was clear. The Empire was no longer indifferent. Earth was a threat, one they would crush at any cost. General Voss slammed her fist on the table. We knew this would come. They want to break us, but they don't understand humans. We don't break, we fight harder. Behind her, a new transmission arrived. A video feed, scrambled but unmistakable. It was a message from the kidnapped children. Images smuggled out by underground resistance within the Empire's indoctrination centers. Faces pale but eyes burning with defiance, they stared. Back at the world. Mia Tran, a girl no older than 13, spoke softly but with iron will. You took us. You tried to make us your soldiers, but we are still human. We will fight, and we will be free. The room fell silent. No more doubts, no more hesitation. The war had begun. The Galactic Empire's high command gathered in the EO. Cold steel halls of the Citadel aboard the Emperor's flagship Sovereign, massive windows overlooked the swirling storm of stars beyond, a constant reminder of the vast dominion they controlled. Emperor Varric sat upon his throne, his piercing eyes fixed on the tactical displays flickering before him. Reports arrived, from distant fronts, the loss of the relay station, uprisings on vassal planets, whispers of rebellion among subjugated species. The kidnapping of human children was meant to be a calculated move, a quiet extraction of valuable genetic material to enhance the Empire's soldier caste. Instead, it had ignited a firestorm. This primitive species continues to surprise us, said Admiral Corrin, his voice laced with contempt. They struck the relay station with precision and ferocity. They are reckless. Varric's eyes narrowed. Reckless, yes, but dangerous. Back on Earth, the news of the Empire's disdain fueled public fury. To be dismissed, belittled, labeled primitive and emotional, only strengthened humanity's resolve. But what the Empire underestimated most was the human spirit's capacity for defiance. Inside the grim halls of the Empire's indoctrination centers, the kidnapped children were forced into grueling training regimes. The Empire sought to erase their humanity, replacing it with cold loyalty to the throne. But something unexpected happened. Mia Tran, the girl who had become a symbol of hope, refused to bend. Despite her young age, Mia had the rare gift of charisma and quiet strength. She whispered stories of Earth, of forests, oceans, and stars seen from a blue planet's surface. She taught the other children to remember who they were, to cling to their humanity like a lifeline in the dark. In the face of relentless indoctrination, a rebellion began to take root. The Empire's trainers dismissed the growing unrest as a minor irritation, a phase that would be crushed quickly. But Mia's quiet resistance spread like wildfire. One night, as the barracks lay shrouded in artificial darkness, a small group of children, guided by Mia, overpowered their guards. They seized weapons and communications equipment, sending encrypted messages to Earth and beyond. Among the captives, the defiant children had become something more than prisoners. They were a clandestine resistance. Meanwhile, on Earth, the Human Defense Accord HDA was evolving. The initial shock had given way to ruthless efficiency. Under General Naomi Voss's leadership, Earth's militaries and scientists pushed forward with relentless determination. The Iron Reclaimer fleets, autonomous, war machines grown in lunar forges, were nearing operational readiness. These machines, capable of self-replication and adaptation, would be humanity's force multiplier against the Empire's technological superiority. And then came the reports from the children inside the Empire, covert transmissions that revealed critical weaknesses in the Empire's indoctrination centers and defense systems. General Voss watched the intelligence streams, a grim smile playing across her lips. "Not only have they taken our children," she said, "but we're already turning their own weapon against them." The Empire's arrogance was their greatest weakness. While their fleets were vast and powerful, they lacked understanding of humanity's unpredictable nature, of courage born from hope and desperation, of unity forged in crisis. As news of the rebel children spread through the galaxy, it inspired oppressed species to reconsider their loyalties. The Empire's grip weakened as dissent grew from within. The question whispered in Imperial halls was no longer, "Can Earth be crushed?" but rather, "Can the Empire survive this uprising?" At the same time, tensions rose within Earth's leadership. Some factions urged caution, fearing the Empire's overwhelming might. Others, fueled by grief and anger, demanded full-scale war. In a private meeting, General Voss confronted the UN Secretary-General Elena Rivas. "We can't wait for the Empire to strike first," Voss said, her eyes blazing. "We have to take the fight to them. We have the momentum. If we don't act now, we lose everything." Elena sighed, torn between hope and pragmatism. "And risk losing our people in a war we may not win?" Voss shook her head. "The only way to win is to make them fear us, to show that humanity will never be broken." Back in the Empire's indoctrination center, Mia and her rebels prepared for their next move. Every day was a battle of wills, every secret message a spark of rebellion. One night, as alarms blared and the guards scrambled, the children slipped into the shadowed corridors. The uprising was beginning. In the vastness of space, Earth's first Revenant fighters approached the Empire's outposts with renewed purpose. No longer just victims, humans had become a force, reckless, fierce, and utterly unyielding. The war was no longer one of survival. It was a war for humanity's soul. The silence of space was shattered by the thunder of war. Earth's newly forged Revenant fighters streaked through the darkness, their sleek hulls cutting across the void like knives. Pilots gripped their controls with white-knuckled intensity, eyes locked on their target. The asteroid colony of Zetar 9, a vital mining hub supplying raw materials to the Empire's fleets. "This is it," Captain Arjun Singh said over the comms, his voice steady despite the tension. "Our first real strike beyond Earth's orbit. Let's make it count." The assault was swift and brutal. Using hit-and-run tactics honed in Earth's orbital defenses, the Revenants struck at the colony's processing plants and defense arrays, disabling them before the Empire's reinforcements could arrive. Explosions blossomed against the black backdrop of space, sending clouds of debris drifting into the void. It was a clear message to the Empire. Earth was no longer a helpless backwater. Back on Earth, the victory was celebrated as a turning point. News broadcasts hailed the courage of the pilots and the ingenuity of the engineers. Streets filled with cheers and banners proclaiming, "We fight, we win." General Naomi Voss allowed herself a brief moment of satisfaction before the weight of command settled back onto her shoulders. "The Empire will respond," she warned her staff, "harder and faster than before." She was right. Within hours, orbital defense satellites and space colonies fell under a merciless counterattack. The Empire unleashed automated strike drones, swift, lethal machines programmed for destruction without mercy. Earth's outposts in the asteroid belt and lunar colonies were pounded into rubble, power grids failed, communication relays went dark, and entire communities were devastated. The scale of destruction shocked the world, but it also steeled their resolve. In the War Council's underground command center, tension crackled like electricity. "We're losing ground," said Admiral Chen, the fleet commander, voice grim. "Their drones are overwhelming our defenses. If this continues, we'll lose all access to our colonies." General Voss slammed her fist on the table. "We can't afford to lose. Every resource, every fighter must be deployed. We will hold, or we will die trying." The room fell silent, the enormity of the choice hanging heavy in the air. Amidst the destruction, the Empire sent an envoy to Earth, offering a chilling ultimatum: surrender unconditionally, or face annihilation. World leaders debated. Many were fearful, desperate to avoid total war, but on the streets the people's voice was clear. No surrender, no mercy. The UN Secretary-General, Elena Rivas, delivered a speech that echoed across every city and broadcast channel. We will not bow. We will not break. Our children have been stolen, our homes attacked, our future threatened. This war is no longer theirs, it is ours, and we will fight to the last breath. General Voss knew the path forward was perilous. Negotiations were a trap, but war demanded sacrifices. She convened her closest advisors for a daring proposal. We launch a covert operation, she said quietly. A strike deep into Empire space. Target their supply lines, their fuel depots. Hit them where it hurts. Few believed Earth had the capability. But desperation breeds courage. Thousands of kilometers away, in a secret facility, Mia Tran and the rebel children prepared for their own battle. They had sabotaged key systems inside the indoctrination centers and smuggled vital intelligence to Earth. Now, they were ready for an uprising that could change everything. Mia's voice was calm but fierce as she rallied the children. We are not their soldiers. We are free. We will fight, not just to escape, but to tear down the Empire from within. The stage was set. Earth's pilots strapped into their cockpits, knowing full well that each mission might be their last. Mia and her rebels moved in the shadows, striking from inside the enemy's walls, and the Empire watched, its arrogance slowly turning to fear. As the fires of war raged from Earth to the farthest reaches of space, one truth became clear. This war was no longer just about survival. It was a war for humanity's very soul. The steel corridors of the Empire's indoctrination center were cold, sterile, and filled with whispers. Mia Tran moved silently through the dimly lit halls, her heart pounding but her expression calm. Around her, dozens of children followed, eyes sharp and ready. They were no longer frightened captives. They were warriors of hope in the darkness. For months they had planned every detail, exploiting the Empire's blind spots and the complacency of their captors. The rebellion was no longer a desperate act, it was a calculated strike. At the heart of the complex lay the central control chamber, a labyrinth of data terminals, security nodes, and power conduits. It was the nerve center for the indoctrination process, and disabling it would send shockwaves throughout the Empire's training facilities. Mia glanced at her comrades, whispering, "Tonight, we take back what is ours. Tonight, we show them the strength of humanity." Elsewhere, the human covert team that had smuggled communications into the Empire's network prepared for a critical mission of their own. Lieutenant Marcus Hale was their leader, a seasoned operative hardened by years of warfare and betrayal. His orders were clear. Infiltrate the Empire's supply depot on the asteroid Helios 3, sabotage their fuel reserves, and extract vital intelligence on troop movements. The mission was suicide by design, but failure was not an option. "We hit them where it hurts," Marcus said to his squad. No hesitation, no mercy. As the team slipped through the darkness of space aboard a stealth shuttle, the line between soldier and ghost blurred. They were shadows moving against an unstoppable machine. Back on Earth, General Naomi Voss reviewed the latest intelligence. The Empire's relentless attacks had pushed many outposts to the brink, but humanity's counteroffensives were beginning to slow the tide. The Iron Reclaimers, those self-replicating war machines, were operating in the asteroid belt, scavenging wreckage and adapting to Empire tactics faster than anyone predicted. "Earth is fighting back," Voss said, eyes hard. "But this war is far from over. The Empire is ruthless, and they will escalate. We need every advantage we can get." She turned to a communications officer. "Status on the children's transmissions?" A flicker of static resolved into the unmistakable image of Mia. "They're organizing," the officer said, "and they're ready to strike." Meanwhile, inside the indoctrination center, chaos erupted. Alarms blared as Mia's group disabled security protocols and overran guard posts. The children moved with surprising precision, using stolen weapons and improvised tools. In the central control chamber, Mia faced the final challenge: a heavily armored command unit responsible for overseeing indoctrination programs across multiple systems. "This ends now," Mia whispered, hacking into the terminal with trembling fingers. The screen flickered, then went dark. The rebellion's success sent ripples through the Empire. High Command scrambled to contain the uprising, but the children's transmissions had already ignited hope across occupied worlds. Oppressed species, inspired by human defiance, began questioning their loyalty to the Empire. Some sabotaged supply lines, others staged protests and strikes. The Empire's iron grip was loosening. Lieutenant Marcus's team struck Helios 3 with brutal efficiency. Explosions ripped through fuel tanks, igniting chain reactions that rocked the asteroid. They stole critical documents before slipping away, evading Empire patrols through cunning and sheer luck. As they returned to Earth, Marcus knew this was only the beginning. Back on Earth, the War Council met to assess the shifting balance. "We're winning hearts as much as battles," Secretary General Elena Rivas said. "The Children's Rebellion is proof that even in captivity, humanity cannot be broken." General Voss nodded. "We must support them. We need to synchronize our efforts, strike from both inside and out." In the dark reaches of space, the Empire's fury was mounting. Emperor Varric stared at the holomap, fury burning in his eyes. "Humans are becoming a cancer," he growled. "Extinguish their rebellion, crush their fleets, leave no survivors." But even as he issued his commands, a flicker of fear lingered. A fear born not from military might, but from the unyielding spirit of a species that refused to be enslaved. The war for humanity's future had reached a crucial turning point. The Children's Rebellion was no longer a secret. It was a beacon, and Earth's fight was no longer just a defense. It was a revolution. The void beyond the asteroid belt trembled with the roar of war. Captain Arjun Singh's Revenant fighter squadron surged through debris fields, their engines humming with barely contained fury. The mission was clear: strike the Empire's forward supply convoy before it could reinforce their battered fleets. "Stay sharp," Arjun commanded through the comm. "We hit fast, then vanish." The convoy, a cluster of heavily armed transports, carrying fuel and munitions, was no match for the nimble Revenants. Using hit-and-run tactics perfected in Earth's orbit, the squadron launched a coordinated assault. Missiles streaked through space, detonating against hulls in brilliant bursts. Electronic warfare pods jammed the convoy's sensors, sowing confusion. Within minutes, the convoy was crippled. Arjun watched the flagship explode in a fiery blossom. "We're making them bleed," he said grimly. But the war's far from over. Back on Earth, the victory was met with cautious celebration. The Human Defense Accord pushed for accelerated development of offensive capabilities, while civilian morale soared. General Naomi Voss paced the command room, eyes on the holomap displaying shifting battle lines. Despite the victories, losses weighed heavy. The Empire's retaliatory strikes had shattered several lunar colonies, and thousands of civilians were displaced. "We've won the battle," she told her staff. "But the war will test us in ways we've never imagined." Her voice was resolute. "We'll adapt, we'll fight harder, and we will never surrender." Meanwhile, within the dark halls of the Empire's indoctrination centers, Mia Tran and the rebel children seized momentum. With the central control system disabled, confusion reigned among the guards. Mia led a breakout, guiding her group toward the outer gates. Their messages to Earth had inspired uprisings on other Empire-held worlds. Rebels sabotaged supply lines, stormed armories, and broadcast calls for freedom. In the quiet moments between gunfire, Mia's voice was a beacon. "We're not victims. We're the future. We fight for everyone who cannot." In a shadowed corridor, Lieutenant Marcus Hale and his covert team prepared for their next mission. The intelligence stolen from Helios 3 had revealed a critical weakness. The Empire's fuel depots on the moon Titania were poorly defended. "This is our chance," Marcus said, checking his gear. "We hit Titania, and we starve their fleets." The team slipped through the void aboard a stealth cruiser, cloaked beneath the ringed giant's shadows. The tension was palpable. Failure meant doom. Success meant tipping the scales. Emperor. Varric watched the unfolding rebellion with growing rage. How dare they defy the Empire? He snarled. Crush the insurgents. Show the galaxy the fate of those who oppose us. But whispers of dissent reached even his throne. Vassal worlds questioned their loyalty. A coalition of enslaved species plotted revolt. The Empire's foundations trembled. On Earth, a new alliance formed between humans and several sympathetic alien races, former vassals who saw in humanity a chance for freedom. Ambassadors gathered in secret meetings, sharing intelligence and technology. Together they forged weapons and strategies tailored to counter the Empire's strengths. The War Council named this coalition the Alliance of Free Worlds. As the Revenant fighters prepared for another strike, General Voss addressed the pilots. This is more than a battle. It's a declaration. We fight not just for Earth, but for every soul yearning for freedom. The pilots cheered, their spirits ignited. In the depths of space, Marcus's team infiltrated Titania's fuel depot. Explosions rocked the facility as they deployed charges and hacked the fuel control systems. Alarms blared, but the team moved swiftly, escaping through maintenance shafts and evading patrols. Their success crippled the Empire's fleet logistics, forcing a temporary retreat. The war had shifted. The Empire no longer held the upper hand. The tide was turning. Back on Earth, Mia's transmissions reached a global audience. Her words resonated far beyond the indoctrination centers. We will not be silenced. We will not be broken. This is our time to rise. In the streets, in the hearts of millions, the fire of rebellion blazed. General Voss looked to the stars. Determination etched on her face. This is our fight, she vowed. And we will win it, together. The shadows of the Galactic Empire were fracturing. Emperor Varric's fury simmered beneath the cold veneer of his command chamber. The recent string of defeats, the sabotage of Helios 3, the loss of Titania's fuel depot, and the relentless, human attacks had shaken the once unassailable might of his forces. Reports from vassal planets grew more alarming by the hour. Uprisings flared like wildfire. Once loyal governors were either dead or fled. The Empire's supply lines, stretched thin across the stars, were severed repeatedly by cunning human strikes and insurgent sabotage. Varric slammed his fist on the obsidian armrest of his throne. The children's rebellion was a plague upon us. Now their people rally every oppressed soul against the Empire. His voice was low but carried the weight of a collapsing regime. If we do not act decisively, the Empire will crumble. Thousands of light years away, on the rebel-held moon of Elysia, Mia Tran stood among a growing assembly of human and alien allies. The once frightened child had transformed into a symbol of defiance and hope. Her eyes scanned the crowd as she spoke into a transmitter beaming her message across the galaxy. This is not just a fight for Earth, Mia declared. It is a fight for every world yearning to breathe free. We carry the torch of freedom, for our stolen children, for our fallen, and for the future. The crowd erupted in cheers, their voices a chorus of rebellion echoing across space. On Earth, General Naomi Voss coordinated a complex series of offensives. The Alliance of Free Worlds, bolstered by new alien allies, targeted the Empire's weakening infrastructure. Satellite arrays were destroyed. Communication hubs fell silent. Entire fleets were stranded without supplies. The human engineers, alongside alien technicians, developed adaptive weapons capable of countering the Empire's advanced shields and automated defenses. Victory was no longer a distant dream, but the Empire was far from defeated. Varric ordered a brutal crackdown. Elite legions known as the Shadow Guard were deployed to suppress rebellions. Entire planets were razed and civilians were imprisoned en masse. The Empire's cruelty was meant to intimidate, but it also hardened resistance. In the thick of the war, Captain Arjun Singh and his Revenant squadron faced their deadliest battle yet. Tasked with defending Earth's orbital defenses, Arjun's fighters engaged an overwhelming Imperial fleet bent on annihilating the moon colonies. Lasers cut through the void. Explosions blossomed in the blackness, and fighters danced between death and survival. Arjun's voice cut through the chaos, steady and resolute. "Hold the line. We're the shield for every person who calls Earth home." Despite heavy losses, the Revenants held. Meanwhile, Lieutenant Marcus Hale led a covert strike team deep into the heart of the Empire's capital world, Nexus Prime. Their mission: assassinate a high-ranking Imperial commander responsible for the indoctrination centers and child kidnappings. Moving through the city's underbelly, the team navigated narrow alleys and shadowed corridors, avoiding patrols and surveillance drones. When the moment came, Marcus's team struck with precision. The commander fell, and a trove of classified documents was seized. Back on Elysia, Mia received the news of Marcus's success. It was more than a tactical win. It was a blow to the Empire's morale. "We are striking at the heart of the beast," she told her followers. "The Empire's walls are crumbling, the chains of oppression will break." Emperor Varek's advisors urged a final, devastating campaign, an all-out assault to crush the rebellion and reassert control. But Varek hesitated. The unyielding spirit of humanity and the growing coalition of free worlds had shaken his certainty. The once mighty empire was now a wounded giant, its foundations cracking under the weight of rebellion. On Earth, the War Council gathered for a historic session. General Voss addressed the assembly, her voice calm but fierce. "We stand at the precipice of victory. The Empire's arrogance has been its undoing. But we must not falter. We fight for freedom, for justice, and for the future of all worlds." A chorus of voices rose in agreement. The war was far from over, but the tide had truly turned. In the darkest corners of the galaxy, the message was clear. The Empire could no longer ignore the power of a united humanity. The galaxy was awakening, and the chains of tyranny were breaking. The stars blazed with the fire of war. Captain Arjun Singh's squadron soared through the dark void, leading the final assault on the Empire's last major stronghold, the colossal space fortress Aegis Citadel. This bastion was the heart of Imperial power in the sector, a fortress from which Emperor Varek sought to crush the rebellion once and for all. "The moment we've trained for," Arjun said over the comms, voice steady despite the tension. "For Earth, for the children, for every soul yearning to be free." Behind them, the alliance of free worlds' fleets swelled, human, alien, and rebel ships united in purpose and firepower. The battle erupted in a thunderstorm of laser fire, missiles and energy blasts. The Aegis Citadel's defenses were formidable, but the alliance was relentless. Inside the fortress, Emperor Varek stood before a holographic map, his face a mask of rage and desperation. "How dare they challenge me at the heart of the Empire?" he spat. "Destroy them, show no mercy." But his orders fell on increasingly fractured command. Several Imperial commanders, weary and disillusioned, hesitated or even turned on their own. The rebellion had grown beyond mere human resistance. It was a galaxy-wide uprising, fueled by hope and the unbreakable will to be free. Meanwhile, on the ground within the fortress's vast interior, Mia Tran led the rebel children in a coordinated strike against the indoctrination corps. With each step, they dismantled the machinery of oppression, destroying the systems designed to erase identity and loyalty. Their fight was fierce and personal. "These walls will fall," Mia whispered as she disabled the last terminal, "because freedom is stronger than fear." Outside, Arjun's squadron breached the fortress's outer shields. The battle grew. Chaotic. Fighters and dreadnoughts clashed in brutal dogfights. Amid the chaos, Arjun spotted a squadron of elite Shadow Guard fighters attempting to flank the Alliance's capital ship. With a roar, he led a daring charge, weaving through enemy fire. His fighters engaged the Shadow Guard in a deadly dance of skill and determination. In the command deck of the flagship Starlight Horizon, General Naomi Voss coordinated the assault. "This is our moment," she said, voice calm but resolute. "Push forward. For Earth. For all free worlds." As the fortress's shields faltered, Alliance boarding parties breached the walls. The fight turned to brutal close-quarters combat. In the throne room, Emperor Varek faced Mia and her small contingent. "You are but children," he sneered. Fools who believe they can challenge the Empire. Mia met his gaze, steady and unyielding. We are the future, and the future will never kneel. With a defiant cry, the rebels overwhelmed the guards. Varick's throne, once a symbol of invincibility, was shattered. The news of the Emperor's capture rippled through the galaxy. Across imperial worlds, the rebellion's victory sparked celebrations and uprisings. The chains of oppression shattered and a new dawn rose. Back on Earth, streets flooded with joyous crowds. General Voss addressed the world, her voice carrying the weight of hard-fought victory and hopeful promise. We fought against impossible odds. We stood united. Today, we reclaim our future, not just for humanity, but for all free peoples of the galaxy. Mia Tran, now hailed as a hero, looked up at Earth's blue sky, free at last. The kidnapped children had become the spark that ignited a revolution that no empire could extinguish. The war was over. But the journey to build a free galaxy had only just begun. The end